Welcome back to the Sports Authority. Our guy on the web, Local12.com digital editor and columnist Richard Skinner joins us as he does every Sunday. We've got a lot to get to. We're going to start with UC Hoops. An 80-74 loss. That's a 6-point loss, and it was 6-0 on senior day. Gosh, I mean, just the circumstances around. They found UC finding out last night that today, instead of later this week, was going to be senior day, and then giving some guys a start that were significantly overwhelmed when Penny decided to start pressing right out of the gate, and the circumstances were such. It was 6-0, 4 turnovers, 0 shots, and finally the cavalry came in. But what can you say? I suppose
usually that works out so well, where you got the walk-on makes a jump shot, and they get out 4-2 up or down, right? And you're like, okay, good, we got them some minutes. And look, everybody does it. I know you and I were talking before. If UC was on the cusp of a bid and needed this win, would he have done it? Maybe not. But literally almost everybody on senior night starts their seniors. It's the right thing to do. That's the reward. But you also didn't prepare for that for today either. So who knows how many reps those guys got with the ones, for lack of a better term. So it was a weird circumstance, and yeah, it's awful weird. You're down 6-0 and you lose by 6. Now, granted, circumstances ended differently,
without
but
a
still,
doubt. Yeah.
Still, it's pretty marked, the difference at the beginning and the end.
When you look at what UC was able to do against Tulane earlier this week with a win, a 20-point victory that really came out of nowhere, considering every game that they had won was very, very close. The youth was served in the second half, a big run sparked by Jeremiah Davenport and Tari Eason.
Sophomores and freshmen.
Had 47 points combined, I believe. And then today, another nice stretch from the young guys, which leads John Brandon after the game saying, I hear people are concerned about this team going forward, and I don't know why. Do you know why, or do you agree with Coach Brandon?
I do, because there's nothing you see in the pipeline moving forward from a recruiting perspective. So I do get that part of it.
In terms of not people who aren't currently on the team.
That's correct.
Right.
Correct. So I do understand that. But I also think that the one thing that's happened here with the attrition and guys opting out, and especially now David Julius opting out because he'd been really good, is now these guys are thrust into roles, and now you're looking and going, this guy can play, and that guy can play. I mean, I always thought of Jeremiah Davenport as a real complementary piece, and maybe that is what he is at his best, but he's been really good of late. Tari Eason has been really good of late. Madsen's been really good of late. So based on the guys on the roster, I get what he's saying. And listen, in the transfer portal anymore, I mean, the offseason is such a wild, wild west. Who knows what lands? And then, from a recruiting perspective, it's going to be such a weird year because you also have some of these guys can opt back in for another year. You don't know how many scholarships at that point you're going to have. And I know for a couple of kids that we coach in high school, they've been up in the air because teams don't know where are we at numbers-wise. We got one. You want to take it? If you want to take it now. So I think there's a lot of that going on too. So now I'm kind of with John. And I mean, I'll tell you what, Memphis, you talk about a team that maybe is underachieved. They passed the eyeball test times 70. If I watched them in the layup line, I'd tell my team, we're done. Go. They're good.
Yeah, and they played great defense and really won the game in spite of themselves. Right. Down the stretch, had some horrific turnovers that resulted in a game that should have been well in hand, ended up being kind of a nail-biter down the stretch.
Right.
You look at Xavier, and you actually called it. Got to give you props on the Skinny podcast.
Lucky, I think,
first of all, if you're not listening to the Rick Broering Richard Skinner weekly podcast. The college basketball one is very good too, but the weekly one you guys do, I laugh at least twice. I think I woke my wife up listening to it.
You always have a good question or so in there too.
There's always a good question and a good answer there, but you did predict that Xavier was going to win, was going to beat Creighton, 13th ranked in the country, and Xavier didn't really, there wasn't a point in that game where you thought, oh, here it comes,
right.
They're going to give it up.
Right.
They played great from start to
finish. And the only thing is, and I even mentioned, I said, I'm not being rational with this pick, so I don't want to suddenly think I'm a genius that goes, hey, I just thought it was, if you're going to make a stand in this season, this was the point to do it. You're back at home, ranked team, not playing well, questions about yourself, questions about your toughness, questions about the way you're doing things offensively and especially defensively. And this was the time to either make a stand or not. And I thought this team was good enough to make the stand. That's the only reason I picked it. Trust me, there was literally this much rationale behind it. None whatsoever, other than it was time to make a stand, and they did. And good for them. And now, I think if you're a Xavier fan, you breathe easier about being in the NCAA tournament.
Have they done enough?
I think they have now. I mean, look, you lay an egg the last two and get bumped first round of the Big East, maybe not. But I don't see them losing to Georgetown. Yeah, at Marquette, I can see that loss. Not at Georgetown. Today, though, if you're looking for quad wins, or not today, yesterday, if you're looking for quad wins to get you there, that was huge because it's a ranked team, even if it's on your home court.
And I talked to Travis Steele today, and our viewers have already seen here in the Sports Authority that there is, when you look at their resume, obviously what stands out is a win over Oklahoma and now the win over Creighton.
Those are great.
Two top 15 wins, but people are sort of casting aspersions on it because they both came at home. What Coach Steele said was, there's no such thing as a home court advantage this year, and it's almost easier to play on the road because it gives your guys something different.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, we've always thought that there's a home court advantage because officials, just being human beings, they officiate differently. You're on, the crowd can spur you on at times, all those things. So I think that's probably accurate. And these are two really, it's not like you beat two quad 50 teams. You beat two legit teams. Yeah. I mean, at home, and didn't win on a buzzer beater. And yes, they've won a handful of against teams that you argue that shouldn't be buzzer beaters. But these are two really good wins when you needed them most. So yeah, I think they've done more than enough. I think they're. And I didn't look at Bracket Matrix today. It's probably on the College Basketball Podcast, or will be. I'm saying they're probably now comfortably on the 9 line and can play themselves the 8 line. And I can't believe they play themselves below the 10 line. So they're comfortably in.
Okay. The Reds played game number 1 of their spring. They lose 5-1 to the Indians.
Batter Kyle Farmer.
Kyle Farmer had the team's only extra base hit, and Joey Votto had 2 hits and an RBI. So Joey Votto can still hit, and it looks like Kyle Farmer's the everyday shortstop. What more do we need to see?
Just stop it right now. We're good to go. We've got our shortstop. We've got Joey Votto back to where you want Joey Votto to be. I did think it was interesting batting Kyle Farmer leadoff. And look, I know that they didn't play, Shogo didn't play, Winker didn't play, so they didn't play some of the top guys in the lineup, but they did play a fairly everyday lineup for the most part. Look, good for Kyle Farmer. If you're going to win the starting shortstop job, it ain't like you can start the spring 0 for 14 and go, hey, I'm still here, guys. No, start it the right way and continue to prove that you should be the everyday guy. I don't believe that over 100-plus games, whatever he starts, he's the guy, but if you're going to start to show that, at least for opening day, you need to do it today, and that was a good start for him.
Okay, you and I are both big golf guys.
Yep.
Obviously, the big golf news this week, Tiger Woods in an accident. It felt like it was going to be very, very serious, to the point where a lot of people thought it was very reminiscent of what happened with Kobe Bryant. It turns out that, thankfully, that was not the case, and the attention is now, is it possible that he comes back and plays? Thankfully, that's what the conversation is. But do you foresee him coming back in any sort of competitive capacity?
I do. Now, whether he's successful,
Really?
I do. Whether he's successful or not is obviously another question, because I think these guys at that level of athletics are so driven, just so driven, that listen, he's at an age he doesn't need any more money, right? What are you getting up every day to do? You've got to be driven to do something. And for him, it was coming back from a back surgery, showing that I can be the all-time PGA wins leader, which he's tied with Sam Snead. He's never going to get to Jack now. I think that's been clear, whether he had this car accident.
Yeah.
Majors. Whether he had this car accident or not, I think we can be clear on that, and that became sadly clear because I thought for sure he was going by that in a heartbeat. Shows you how hard it is, obviously. I think he's going to be so driven that this is his goal. I'm coming back and I'm going to play on the PGA Tour. And if he's capable of walking 72 holes and performing at that level, I think he wins the one more he needs to get past Sam Snead. I really, really, really do. Maybe it's optimistic. Maybe I've just watched this guy. I mean, I know some of it's melodramatics, the wincing with going down to a knee. But I also know it's real because he's had back surgery. It's not like he's done this.
5 of them.
Yeah, it's not like he's done this and go, oh, I just had spasms, I'm good. No, he's had some back surgeries along the way, so it's real. I just think he's so driven. And again, when you've got all the money in the world, I think that you have to have some goals to get up every morning. And I think his goal is going to be, I'm coming back, and not only am I going to play, I'm going to get that 83rd win to beat Sam Snead. I'm going to do it.
Okay, well, we'll see. I saw a lot of people say that if Tiger Woods surgeries or PGA Tour wins, you would have a Hall of Fame career with
if those were majors,
yeah, he'd be well on his
Correct.
way. So Richard Skinner, Local12.com digital editor and columnist. Our website is where you can find all of his stuff, including the Skinny podcast. Skinny, thanks so much.
Jed.